You can.
Grow your own food. Take his mind, mine.
have, we have a problem with aphids, and I'm sorry for the camera going in and out. But if you also could see, nature has came to really balance out the situation. Ladybugs have came, they've laid eggs. There are ladybug nymphs all over here, and so they've came because the food is here for them to eat, and so they've came here and to really balance out this situation. Remember, nature definitely has checks and balances. If we work in harmony with nature, we could see the process of nature balancing itself out, and we just have to be conscious of what's going on in nature and try to support it. But once again, when you see an insect problem, know that generally there's something coming to balance out, a balancing principle in nature to balance out that insect problem, to make it harmonious. So just
Welcome to
demonstrate.
another episode of What's Your View?
Did you know you could grow your own food? I think that's an important concept, and it doesn't take as much as you believe it takes.
It absolutely doesn't. And our master farmer, our very own master farmer, Bryan Ibrafall Wright, was here with us in the wintertime. And now he's back for summertime to tell us what to do in our gardens. Welcome, welcome, Ibrafall. I'm so glad to have you back.
Yes,
Thank
we are.
you. Yeah, thank you.
So tell us about growing our own food because a lot of us are intimidated,
Mm.
especially those who've never grown food, only bought from the grocery store, and really believe they need at least an acre to grow something.
Right, right. That's that land usage question that we have so often. I hear so many brothers and sisters say, "I would grow my own food if they would have gave us our 40 acres and a mule." Or when I get my 200 acres, I'm gonna start growing food. But the reality is, you know, uh, great farmers, great gardeners make good farmers, and so starting from some place is the most realistic thing. Growing food isn't hard. Understand, plants have a natural genetic disposition to survive. They want to survive. They want to grow. They want to produce, their next generation of seeds. Um, and so, what I say is to people who are intimidated with growth and with growing is, or they say I don't have a green thumb. I like to say we need to be the black thumb society. We don't need to worry about growing plants. We need to worry about
Uh, uh,
and that's probably one of the easier things to do.
so we lost you with that last one because you went out a little bit. You said
Sure.
we don't need to worry about growing plants. We need to.
We don't need to worry about growing plants. We need to worry about building soil. When we build the proper environment, the proper soil environment, plants will naturally grow themselves. So I think if our preoccupation was more so on how do we build soil, how do we preserve soil, how do we, maintain the biological diversity in the soil, or how do we build the microbial structure in the soil, and whether the pH, proper pH of the soil for growing, all of those um, really fall into this, looking at being sustainable. If you want to be a hobby garden, I think that's beautiful. I think that's beautiful because you're still practicing skills that are relative to survival.
Now,
Uh,
Aberfall, I'm going to say this that sounds a bit intimidating for the average person.
mhm.
So let's go back and give us some steps as to how we can build soil, because I agree with you. When I
Mm-hmm.
first when I first moved here to Texas, my hedges, everything looked beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had two back-to-back hard freezes.
Mm-hmm.
And usually if you have a freeze, things will come back. The the soil will be nice and fertile and things will come back. But I didn't have that.
Right.
After that second freeze, I had all of these bugs. I had an infestation of bugs
Mm-hmm.
that ate up everything that I planted.
Mm-hmm.
And not wanting to use any type of chemicals, I didn't do anything to it. So then I started looking at the soil and looking for ways to create the right environment. And I got Epsom salt, I got um, bone meal, I got all of the things I thought that I needed, and it didn't do a thing.
Right.
Well, this year, the soil seems to be back because I had these fig trees that I had planted and they looked so bad. I mean, for 2 years, I just left them there. I was just so disappointed. One of them looked completely dead, but now they're so vibrant and green. They've grown. This first year they've grown because they didn't grow before. I've got these wildflowers that I didn't plant growing. I've got all of the herbs that I planted. They just came and sprouted back up. It's been a 3 year process. I don't know what I did right. So I think that we need a guideline as to the soil health, because before we do anything, we need to know that.
Right. So I mean, it sounds difficult and sort of regimented, but building soil is as simply as leaving a mulch layer on top of your soil. Whether it be in the fall, instead of raking up your leaves and putting them out on the corner, uh, for somebody like me looking for them to take, or for the city, just leave them on your soil. When you cut your grass, instead of having a mulching lawnmower, leave your clippings on the soil. Literally just simply putting a layer of mulch, whether it be grass clippings, whether it be leaves, whether it be straw, hay, whatever you want to use, compost. Simply putting a layer of organic matter on top of the soil for it to break down and to feed the life soil is really that simple. It's that simple. And so when you talk about what you dealt with your garden, you could put down all of the amendments to the soil that you want, but if the microbial life isn't there to actually eat those amendments and then to defecate it out so it's accessible to plant, it doesn't matter what you put in there. That's why it's going to take 3 years for you to end up seeing the results, because really you dealt with 2 years of trying to build up the microbial life in the soil. And the easiest thing to do is just to mulch. You could put mulch down in your garden bed, your flower beds, and you literally will see a change in the soil diversity. And
Within, you said within a week, you cut off a little bit.
yeah, I said you will see a change in the soil diversity within weeks.
Within
You know,
weeks.
yeah,
Wow.
within weeks. Nature is for a garden. Gardening and agriculture is not something that's natural to nature. So what we try to do with sustainable agriculture is try to mimic it uh, to be more of a natural environment, and literally just mulching is, is simple enough.
Well, I wonder if, so for the fig trees that have come up so beautifully and the herbs, we drink a lot of coffee around here, and I
Mhm,
buy organic beans and I grind them myself. And they eat a lot of eggs. I got a big family, and bananas. So I
mhm.
just about every week I was taking that and throwing it out there. I
Right.
said I'm just gonna throw it on here, and that's what looks the best.
Right. Yeah. I mean, once again, it's because the microbes in the soil have something to eat. And it's just like us when we have food, and we have an abundance of food and healthy, sustainable food, life becomes easy and we could build, we could grow. That's just, that to me, that's just like, an analogy to the power of growing, of farming, of gardening. It's like when you're able to sustain yourself with the most vital form of energy, which is food, it gives you the freedom and the luxury to move into other things. And so for these, so now, these microbes in the soil, you're feeding them consistently, they're reproducing, you
Oh,
know,
that makes
reproducing.
sense. I never thought about it that way because I also I bought, I would say probably around October. I always buy organic food. So I bought all these green onions and I bought some onions. So anytime something starts sprouting, I throw it outside.
Hmm.
And yesterday I said, well, let me go pick these onions because they got a flower bud on them and the sprouts are like that. I had bulbs like that when I
Yeah.
pulled those onions out of the ground. But those are the ones I used also all those coffee grinds and stuff on. And my husband kept telling me, it's gonna mold. You can't do it like that. I said, I think it'll be fine. I'm just gonna throw it out there. Why not? Because I kind of got disgusted. That's amazing to know. And when I
That
pulled
is
them out
amazing to know.
yesterday, I thought to myself, how is this big?
Hmm.
I'm gonna save this onion. I told my daughter, chop this onion up and put it in the refrigerator.
So you know what? Now that you mentioned like throwing the coffee grinds and the bananas and stuff out there, what about composting? Should she have would it
Yeah.
have been better had she composted it,
Yeah.
or
That I was
like, how
gonna.
does that work?
Yeah. So the easiest thing with all of that organic matter that you have, anything that you're throwing away, whether it be coffee grounds, bananas, any of your produce, onions, cardboard, paper, shredding your newspaper, or your mail or whatever. Any of those organic materials that come from nature, building a compost heap is the most compact way for you to constantly be recycling that stuff, and to feed your garden. Now it needs to be said. A lot of brothers that talk to me about, they show me their compost heaps, and it's like a little pile that's not much larger than a shoe. In order for you to have, a successful compost heap, you want to be looking at something that's, you know, at least 3 feet wide and at least 2 to 3 feet tall as well.
Well, I
That
do have that. My husband, I keep begging him to bring it from New Orleans because I used to grow just spectacular gardens in New Orleans, but he hasn't brought it to me, and I don't want to buy a new one because I have a big one that would turn every day, and I
Yeah,
put
yeah, yeah, yeah.
in them and stuff. Just what you said, all of that, and I'd make this beautiful dirt. And
Right.
in my sheer disgust with him, I just I just can't bring myself to throw away this organic matter. I can't put it in the trash. So I just
Yeah.
throw it outside in these buckets.
Right. Well, I tell you what, Paul, check out our video on Black Urban Gardening Society, on YouTube. I have a easy video that focuses on
Okay.
how to compost in a small space and how it could be very efficient and rodent proof as well. If you live in an area where you have rodents. So yeah, that's something that could be very easy and simple to do. You could compost in place, but moreover, I mean, what you're doing works. So imagine if you were dropping those coffee grounds, but you had about 3 or 4 inches of chopped up, shredded grass clippings or leaf clippings, that your soil will be even more nutrient rich and it'll have more diversity in it. So I mean, everything in nature is, y'all, we make it difficult, and I think that's something that we've been trained to do by people who oppress us, is to make things harder than what it is. And it's actually very simple. There is no new matter on this earth. All of the oxygen we have is the oxygen that the first people breathed. The water that we drink is the same water that the dinosaurs drank. There's no Everything is designed to be recycled. Hence us. We are recyclable material. We are organic matter as well. Everything's designed to be recycled. And the biggest recycling factor we have is the soil. So when you drop anything on the soil, if it sits there long enough, the soil is going to start to break it down. And the more food it has, like we said, your soil, the organisms that break it down will start to reproduce and they will flourish. And the next thing you know, you have a vibrant ecosystem. And so your soil is healthy, it is full of nutrients, and thus it means that your plants have access to that nutrients. And thus it means when you eat it, you have access to it, you know?
So now in the news you hear that there's the shortage of fertilizer and that farmers are paying a lot of money for fertilizer.
Hmm.
Um, but if you're recycling the stuff in nature that you always have, like the trees, the tree leaves and the grass and the food that you're eating, would
Hmm.
you be hurting as bad
No,
for
no,
fertilizer?
no. First of all, composting is a beautiful way to make your own fertilizer. Um, and I have another video showing how to make your own liquid fertilizer, just the weeds in your garden. I mean, or around your house, your grass clipping. Everything that takes nutrients out of the soil is designed, whatever nutrients it took is still there with it. So you could just put the nutrients back. So when a lot of times, we hear there's a shortage of fertilizer, we're panicking. Um, for people who are growing organically and sustainably, I mean, for me, that doesn't matter to me at all. Because as long as I have plants growing, as long as I have life, what I know is that that life contains life, and I could just repackage it in a different way, and it'll breed life. At our farm here, sometimes we may throw away 100 pounds of lettuce, and sometimes my staff gets upset. Oh my God, I hate this is waste, and I'm like, no, it's not waste. The same lettuce that we're throwing away in 3 months is going to feed the next crop of lettuce. So
Mm.
everything is constantly in rotation. There's no such thing as waste. The problem is that we have lost our relationship with how to maintain, how to be, these people who govern and manage spaces now. And so when we see it, oh, we're like, oh, there's a shortage of fertilizer. There's not. I mean, you look at some cities, municipalities, they are using, human waste
That's
to
true.
create compost. They're using human manure, human, urine. Urine is one of the highest sources of nitrogen that we know of.
Is that
And
safe though to create it from human
yeah,
waste?
manure. There are different arguments about it. I would definitely say in a commercial setting, may probably not, but if it's your own garden, with proper composting and going through things in a correct way, you can, omit a lot of quote unquote past. There are commercial farms who use human manure. We're seeing in Africa and in Central America and these other parts of the world, that is a very common thing, because you what you got, and when we think about, we say, oh, we can use cow manure. Nobody has a problem with using cow manure, chicken manure, and all of these other things.
That's true.
But
Yeah.
yeah, but it's still the same concept. It's just manure.
You
Uh,
know,
so
I
so yeah,
watched this documentary about that, about how garlic is grown, and the majority of our garlic comes from China
yes,
and is grown in sewers and harvested by prisoners.
yes,
And
Well,
even the organic garlic is
yeah.
done that way, that comes over here. So as a result, I started growing my own garlic. I haven't been very successful, but the green sprouts still taste like garlic, so I've been
Yeah,
using.
yeah, yeah. And garlic is one of those long term crops. Covering your soil and clearing areas and mulching, exactly what we're talking about now, keeping soil alive. But for those
mhm.
people who didn't do that, um, now is a beautiful time to start growing. Now is a beautiful time to start growing. There are certain things that I would say the easiest method of growing is just to set up a raised bed. Set up a raised bed. Um, Make it a weed free raised bed. Um, I think I have a video that talks about a weed free garden. Again, uh, all of these really like simple things for you just to set up a raised bed. You can go to Home Depot, buy all of the soil, dirt that you need, the bags that you need, and while you're there, don't be ashamed. Buy some of those already started plants. You know, a lot of times I see people who want to get in the garden, they think they have to be these purists. Like, I have to start from seed. I have to do this and I have to do that and I have to do that. No, I buy plants today. I buy plants to this day. Like, running a nursery is a chore in and of itself. So starting a garden now is a perfect time to start a garden. Um, there are so many crops that are going to grow this time of the year. This is the time of bounty. This is a time of plenty. Particularly if you're in zones 7 and below, even 6 now. But I mean 7 and above. For people in zone 7 and above, in about 2 months, they'll notice that their garden is gonna go on a downswing, and it's just due to the heat. And there are other things that they could be taught to mitigate that as well. Um, but yeah, now is the perfect time to be growing. And there's so many plants that you could grow. I always say grow what you eat. Grow what you eat, grow what you like, but also experiment. There are crops that you know I've discovered as an adult that I didn't eat as a child. One of my favorite things is Swiss chard. I love Swiss chard, but I didn't eat it as a kid. Uh, and so I think growing expands us and helps us move into different areas. But now's the time to start growing. Now's
So
the
I
time.
know now in Texas it's time to plant watermelon.
Hmm.
My problem is squirrels and rodents.
Hmm.
So how do I address those? Because the watermelon is so easy to grow.
Yeah, watermelon is an easy crop to grow. I would say, the thing you're gonna have to do to keep squirrels and rodents out is fencing. You got to fence them off. I was in Oklahoma, and we were growing watermelon, and we had a lot of, 10, 15, 20 pound watermelons
Yeah.
just ready to be picked. And instead of picking that day, I was like, let's wait 2 days. And when we came back in 2 days, like they had all been eaten up.
That's right.
Uh,
Raccoons ate them all up. And this is a lot of melons.
Right.
Um, or you could see the scratch marks on the thicker ones to where they were trying to get into it, they just couldn't get through the skin. Um, so what we realized is, hey, we just put some chicken fencing over it. We put some chicken fence over it, and another crop came back, about 3 months later. And so we were still able to get one crop out. We were hoping to get two, but we still got one crop out. And so you have to protect it. Now is the time for gardeners, and this is the most discouraging time. This is the time when so many people quit. First of all, there's the zeal and the zest this time of the year. It's spring. It
Yeah.
right.
ain't cold no more. I want to get outside. I want to do this. It's not too hot. And so, everybody's buying plants, they're buying flowers, they got their garden started, they're putting all of this energy out, they're spending hours up at night looking at YouTube and all of this other stuff to get tutorials on how to do this. But at the same time, there are things they don't, equate uh weeds weeds are
Yeah.
going to most of us, when we think of starting a garden, what's the first thing we think of? Tilling the soil, right? I got to
Mm-hmm.
get a tiller, and tilling the soil is like one of the worst things you can ever do. As it relates to starting a garden, it's terrible for the soil biology. You are 100% guaranteed to have a bigger weed problem than you had when you started. And so we think of these things. So weeds are going to be a problem. Pests are going to be a problem. There's a lot of people who have never dealt with nature. I see every year in our bugs group, I was so excited this time of year. And then insects started coming around, and they can't deal with their garden no more. Or I saw a snake. I can't go there. And what they don't realize is that when you're creating a garden, you are really creating a new ecosystem. And it's a life supporting ecosystem. That's how powerful the act that we're doing, that we see it as just a mere hobby. It's like, oh, let's put a few plants in the ground. Let's do this. Let's do that. No, you've created an ecosystem. You know,
So, so where did this process of tilling soil even come from?
Um, I think, I mean, when I look in antiquity, I even see pictures in ancient Kemet of our ancestors tilling soil.
Mhm.
I see those pictures, but you know, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the term food desert.
Yeah,
People
I
talk
am.
about food
Mm-hmm.
desert, and a lot of
Yes.
people talk about food deserts, and they say deserts. They say food desert because it's deserts are naturally occurring environment. But the reality is that if we look at almost all of the places in the world to where we have large deserts, what we can see in antiquity is that there was a huge society that there was once. We look at the land of ancient Egypt. It's a straight desert now. We know through record and through archaeological things of the nature that area was once lush. It was once a forest. We could see that, but also we could see that the spreading of agriculture through tilling and growing monocrops, the exact same thing that we're doing now, is the
Right.
same thing that our ancestors did, whether it was in Kemet, whether it was in Mesopotamia, whether it was, in the area we call Israel. Any of these areas, what we could see is that those were once thriving places in antiquity, and they did exactly what we're doing. They started tilling the soil, they started cutting down trees, they created monocrops. They were growing a bunch of wheat, a bunch of barley, a bunch of rice, a bunch of corn. And hence, we see the diets of these areas reflect that type of growth. They all live off of a staple crop of rice or wheat or corn or barley, millet, something of that nature. And what we see is destroyed soil. We can look at places like Mali. Any of these great empires, one of the things that existed in the past, most of them are, you can identify some type of desertification there with these societies because in the quest to feed people and in the quest of creating a system of agriculture, they had to destroy the natural environment. Well, they didn't have to, they chose to destroy the natural environment. So hence we have these new methods of growing and new words that are real popular, like permaculture and sustainable agriculture, holistic. All of these well, they're not new concepts. They're concepts that people have been practicing for a while. They just never were popular. No till. All of these different forms of agriculture, um, they're starting to, manifest themselves again, just simply due to the fact that people see the soil is dying. They
Well,
see the
that's a big
soil.
problem here in the South. Yeah, from
Yeah,
Yeah.
all the
It's
cotton and corn
yeah,
and monocrops. That's a big
yeah.
problem.
I mean, that's the problem with America. Period. Yeah.
Hmm.
so when you mentioned earlier the weed-free raised bed, like
Mhm.
how do you do that?
Well, this time of the year, what you would do, you would create some type of sheet over the soil. Um, so if I was to create a raised bed, say in my backyard where there's grass, what I would do is I would go and get cardboard. I would get about 4 or 5 pieces of cardboard to completely cover the grass area. I would have it covered where I can't see any grass at all. And I would repeat that same process about 3 times over. Then I would set my structure on top of it, my box structure, and I would fill that box up with soil on top of the cardboard. What that cardboard is going to do is slowly break down to where, and if you do it thick enough, it'll break down so slowly that it'll end up killing all of the grass beneath it. Now the
Mm.
key is that you don't till the soil, you don't flip that. So how do you build more soil? You're constantly adding organic matter to the top of the soil, and the microbes in the soil is going to break that organic matter down to make more soil. And so in that process, you're building new layers of soil, building the microbial life, and that is literally an instant garden that you do. And if you bought the plug, I mean, literally, you could in an hour you could have a whole 4x8 raised bed up, with soil. It's going to be weed free, and then you can have your plants sitting in there, and it's a done deal. It's a done deal. It's that simple. We, like I said, we want to complicate it. We want this to be like, rocket science. We want this to be hard, but it's not. It's really, it's really simple. We could go put some cardboard down. If you don't want to do cardboard, you can get horticultural fabric. You can put some of that horticultural fabric down over the grass. Grass is not going to grow through it, and put your dirt on top of it, and it's going to suppress all of the grass below, all of the weed. Now you're going to have a weed-free garden. The only thing you have to worry about is, you know, when somebody cutting the grass or just grass, seeds flying through the air. But you can just weed those up simply with hand, and that's a weed-free raised bed. Now, if you're looking at doing a larger piece of land, that ties back into what we were talking about in the fall. You need to put out a large tarp and let that tarp sit there for a few months, and that tarp will kill everything below it. Beneath the tarp, and then you could start from a weed-free level like that as well. But that's really, the easiest ways to go about it. And to be honest, that's the easiest way to start a garden. Like I said, if you can get your plugs, you can get your soil. If you want to use wood to make a frame with, um, in an hour, you will have a whole completed raised bed with plants in the ground.
Now let's talk about this because we hear this all the time, especially where I am, because we've got a lot of farmers here.
Mm-hmm.
There's a certain time of the month to plant. Planting goes by the rotation of the moon. Is that true? And if so, how do we accomplish doing it right?
Right. I mean, a lot of people grow according to moon cycles. Remember, the moon has a drastic effect on water,
Hmm.
and in the movement of water. Thus, that relates to the cellular structure in a plant. I mean, it results to the cellular structure of us. Say, all right, it's a full moon, folks.
Hmm.
That old saying, because it has to pull on us. The most simple guide is getting a farmer's almanac. Just get an old school farmer's almanac. It'll help you with planning with the moon cycles, that nature. Now, I must be very honest as it relates to me. I care about the moon cycles. Um, what I care about is creating a soil structure that is so bountiful, so full of life that a plant can't do nothing but live. So
So
for
no
me,
matter
I don't care about the like that. For
So
me,
you haven't found planting by the moon works better for you
yeah,
than.
yeah. For me, I can't, because the way that we farm, although we have a small farm, my farm is about production and it's about output and it's about sales. We're actually trying to feed people. We have people salaries we're trying to pay. This is not a hobby. This is very serious for us. So for me, I'm constantly growing in succession. So I made an arugula 2 months ago, but I'm growing new arugula to pull that up in a plant right now. I may have planted kale. So once my plants reach, some form of maturity, I'm trying to constantly be replacing them with young, vibrant plants that have to be out with their wear and tear. So for me, in order for us to keep the cycle going, for us to, produce, a lot of produce, I can't be concerned. I can't wait every month for this cycle or for that cycle, that cycle. What I do know for a fact, I said, all of your listeners, if you build your soil, it doesn't matter what cycle you're dealing of the moon. If you build your soil, plants will grow. Now, may they grow more abundantly if you plant them at the right time? Maybe. But for me, that's not something. That's not something that I govern growth off of.
I tell you something that I found fascinating. I have these black bags, and I had different types of lettuce in those bags.
Mm-hmm.
So I had short in one, red short,
Mm-hmm.
and it was, I would just go clip it off to eat it. And the leaves got nice size, but not really big, but it was big enough for me. And it just kept growing and growing and growing. So when the freeze came in last winter, I cut it. I just brought it in. I didn't cover it up because I said, "Oh, it's gonna die anyway." And let the little stems just refeed the soil. I was amazed it started growing after the frost. It came back.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There are certain crops that, particularly if you live in an area as warm as that you where you live in Texas, there are certain crops that that we grow that they thrive in certain. One of the things we're doing today at our farm was putting cloth over our high top because we have a bunch of lettuce and leafy greens. Those plants thrive in cooler weather.
Yeah.
Don't thrive in warm weather. So it's also about being conscious of, the time in which you want to grow your food. We've been accustomed to having access to anything all of the time.
Yeah.
That's not a norm. That's not a norm. I mean, I remember being a kid to where we knew that we only had strawberries in the summer.
That's
You
true.
know, I mean, I
Hmm.
think many of us can remember that.
Mhm.
You only had watermelon in the summer.
That's right.
One of the excitements of the summertime was, hey, this is a new season, and there are new foods that come with this season. You
Yeah, that's very true.
Right.
world with global trade and to where I think the beauty of what we're starting to see with the high cost of fuels and things of that nature is that people are starting to become actually sane again. We've existed at this level of insanity to where we really feel that we have access to any and everything at all times. And we think that's a norm. And no one has ever known this that we know of, no society that we know of has ever had the ability to have access to this. We have diets that are predicated. I see so many brothers and sisters who are anti-capitalism and anti all of these other things, but they live in Jersey and they eat a tropical food diet, in the winter.
That's
No
true.
tropical is growing in Jersey. The reason why you have coconuts and bananas and avocados
That's
and
right.
mangoes and all of these exotic fruit is because somebody in a corporate sense decided we can make money off of this and we're going to you know, import this to America from Jamaica, Argentina, Mexico, or South Africa, and thousands and thousands of pounds and tons of fossil fuels are burned and emitted for you to get your constant share of this food. And so growing and gardening sort of puts you back to a natural cycle to where, you're like, oh wow. Especially when you garden, there are certain things, there's not to me it's exciting to know when gooseberries are coming.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's exciting, for me when mulberries, they don't sell mulberries in the store like that. And most of America have mulberry trees. Mulberries just sit and rot.
No,
It's
it's true.
yeah,
Because down here we got muscadine. You won't see muscadine anywhere
right.
but down here.
Right. You won't see anybody utilizing it. But go to the health food store and see how much they're selling muscadine for.
That's right. It's true.
You know, no, somebody using it. Somebody
That's
using
right.
it. It's just that we don't see the advantage of it. I see brothers and sisters who talk about, having these strong antioxidants and melaninated foods. I go right back to to the mulberry. Mulberry is one of the deepest pigmented fruits that we'll ever have.
That's right.
Antioxidants
Mm.
are out of the world. And literally, you could be picking during mulberry season. You could pick, 2 or 3 cookie trays of mulberries a day, and just put that cookie tray, spread those single mulberries out, put that cookie tray in the freezer, let them freeze individually, and throw them into a freezer bag. And you literally could have your berry for the rest of the year just
That's
from a few weeks of harvest. you know,
Wow.
or in the cities. I look at, I'm big on foraging for food. I'm here in Baltimore, and in Baltimore, they plant random fig trees all over the city. Why am I going to go buy figs when they're just everywhere? And they were planted for their purpose. So I'm going to go pick figs, and I can make some fig jelly, and I can make some fig preserves, and I could dehydrate. It's things of this nature that we have to take advantage of. But many of us don't have the mindset because we don't grow. And once again, the path of starting a garden, growing, is that, you know, if you plant 3 squash plants, uh, you're going to quickly realize by July these plants putting off more squash than you can eat.
That's right.
And and by the second week, you're gonna realize that your neighbors, cousins, and your aunties and your uncles, they don't no more squash. We, you know, you're gonna realize that you're either gonna pull up your plant, you're gonna let your squash rot, or you're gonna figure out a way to preserve.
I got
You
an
know.
ignorant question to ask you because
Hmm.
it bothers me all the time. So I've grown watermelon before, but I literally have to go back to Louisiana
Hmm.
to get watermelon from people who've been growing it for years to get seeds in it. How in the world are they growing seedless watermelon?
Right. Well, I mean, if you look at seedless watermelon, we all have, and you'll see that in them there are you may see these mutated
There's so
or
little though and
yeah,
soft.
Yeah,
yeah, the
yeah.
soft seed.
Specks.
Yeah, yeah, little whites. You'll see maybe one or two of them. But if you really look at them, you may run into one every now and then that has one or two real seeds. And those real seeds, if they come from an heirloom variety, those real seeds will produce another watermelon. It's just that they have been selected for over the years by ancestors. Our ancestors have selected watermelons that don't have that many seeds because we don't eat the seeds. We eat the flesh. So, somebody 400 or 500 years ago was like, "Oh, I got a watermelon with only 10 seeds versus 400. I'm gonna
Yeah, but
keep
I
it."
eat the seeds. I ate them as a little girl.
Yeah.
I like the seeds, and my dad used to preserve the skin. And I
Hmm.
just find that if you grow up on something, it's a little different because the seedless watermelon is meshy to me.
Yeah.
It has a different sensory taste that I can't tolerate. And then it has these long white strings in them.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
quite
I mean, yeah. Yeah, I mean, all of that, those type of foods are just foods that people have selected for convenience, for you to get more food. They may have longer shelf life. But as buyers, as purchasers, imagine if we had a movement to where we just said, "Hey, we want more air watermelons. We want
yeah.
more," and now we're starting to see that there are stores who. I was just in to Sprouts, the grocery store, the other day. They have a bin, seeded watermelon and seedless watermelon. So there's a market, and what we definitely know is that if there's a market, they are looking to fulfill whatever they can to profit from that market. So but the other strategy is just to grow your own watermelon.
Yeah. Grow
You
your
know,
own.
every year I'm on Facebook and I look at these different groups, and it's always at the alkaline groups of people and Dr. groups. And every year, this time of year, everybody's talking about I can't find seedless watermelon. I can't find seedless grape. I mean, seeded grapes, seeded watermelon. And it's interesting, I think about all of these struggling black farmers around America who would definitely grow seeded watermelon. They knew that they had a target population to sell them to, who would be
Mhm.
to put in vineyards of grapes because grapes are perennial crops and they don't require that much of your time and your energy. They would be happy to put those in. But what has happened is that we can sit, and we sit and we haven't become, you know, people who are, you know, creating situations for us to be free. We could sit, we could complain, we could talk, we could theorize, we could philosophize, do all of that. There are still thousands of black farmers who, imagine, the black population in Atlanta, a city like Atlanta, and hey, we want to see the water. And all of those black farmers in Georgia and in Alabama and Mississippi who could easily get watermelon there. We have the ability to change our food situation, whether it be on the individualistic level, but even on a more large corporate level, we could support black farmers. It- we could tell farmers at my farm, there are organizations that say, "Hey, we want you to be able to produce 100 pounds of bell peppers for us a week." No problem. Now that I know that you told me this in January, I'm gonna make sure I have that for you come May and June. And for me, that's a great thing because I don't have to now guess what customers want. I got guaranteed crop.
Mhm.
and for a business model that changes things. So we have the ability to get these foods. Trust me, we have the
I
ability.
bel It's
There are
just a matter of organizing,
That's it.
right? And communicating with one
That,
another.
that's it. The seeds still exist. You could still buy heirloom seeds. The beauty of heirloom seeds is that you could take 3 watermelon, and those 3 watermelon probably have enough seeds for you to plant a 40-acre field.
And
You know.
the difference is, I remember my grandfather was a farmer, my mother's dad, and my mother farmed. So we always grew up with food, our own food in our backyard and food from the farm. But he would plant watermelon that was that would be ready. We never ate watermelon before the 4th of July. We
Hmm.
knew that on the 4th of July would be the first day we'd eat watermelon, and Labor Day would be the last day.
Hmm.
And that's how we ate food. We
Right.
always ate food in season.
Right.
We had a winter squash, we had a summer squash.
Hmm.
We had winter tomatoes, we had summer tomatoes.
Right.
We just didn't eat the same food all year round.
Right. And
So
and the fact that the food that grows, whatever's growing in the seed, is the most nutrient rich and the most healing food for the body of that season. You look at citrus, oranges, all those foods that's full of vitamin C. When did they come? When did they ripen? What is
Right.
considered the wintertime, and when we need vitamin C most during the wintertime. You
right.
so it's no coincidence that, you look at the summer cucumbers and melons. We eat this. What do we need? We need those electrolytes. We need that water, because it's hot. And if you are not living inside of a house and you're outside and you're dealing with nature, you're going to be in that heat. So just, I don't eat a raw cucumber size when I'm farming. I don't. I'm not a big cucumber fan. I'll eat them in a salad. But if I'm farming and I'm hot and I see cucumber, I'll just pick the cucumber and literally eat the whole cucumber. Why? Just because it gives me the electrolytes. I can feel it. Now I can feel myself being dehydrated and now being replenished.
No,
Uh,
that's true.
you know. So
Right,
yeah,
right.
what grows during those times is what's supposed to be there.
It's
That's,
what's supposed to be there.
that's right. That's true because my grandmother used to prepare us for lunch. We didn't have these big luscious lunches that people eat now. She used to go outside and get an onion, tomatoes, and cucumbers, and she chop them up in
Mhm.
the morning. She put a little salt on them, a little pepper on
Yep.
them, cracked pepper, put them in the refrigerator so
Yep.
it could cool off, and then we'd come in, and literally that's what we'd have for lunch.
Yeah. And
That was our salad.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because that's a food that I associate with. My grandmother did the same thing.
Oh
Yeah,
my
it'll be in the refrigerator, and she put vinegar in there, and it'll
goodness.
just. And that was in the summertime. That that was one of the foods we knew we could have, and it was always available. You could have
That's
we
right.
called it cucumber
Always.
salad. You know,
Back we got to go back to the basics.
right?
Oh, that's an
Literally.
indigenous thing of our people. It's
Yes, it's
gotta
very
be because
different.
you're somewhere else. I was down here in the South, and
Yeah,
my grandmother did the same thing.
I mean, but I've even seen this as a practice. I see this in Africa. You
That's
know,
where it came from.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, these are practices that our people have always done.
Hmm.
And so yeah, to have these little salads and these different meals, all of that, and what's crazy is that the varieties that we have access to if we were to grow our own. You know, I had
That's true.
someone at our farm and there was a sister. She was there today. We had a volunteer day. And she was like, "Oh, I'm familiar with dinosaur kale, but we're growing a purple, it's bluish purple, and it's been growing this way for thousands of years, and it's a kale and it's full of melanin." She's like, "Oh,
Wow.
I've never seen a bluish purple dinosaur kale." I was like, "Well, here it is. It's growing." And she's like, "Why is it in the store? They're not going to sell everything at the store. At the store, they're going to sell what's commercially viable, what has a long storage life, what can be shipped good." But as growers, if we don't support growers, if we grow ourselves, if we go to the farmers market or from the small growers that are local, what happens is that all of a sudden have access to a diversity of foods that we never had before. I mean, we're selling, people are looking for dandelion green, and we're growing a red that comes from Italy.
Wow.
Uh, beautiful, beautiful dandelion, uh, full of melanin, full of life. It's not just green. Uh, it's an heirloom, and we're letting it go to seed, and we want the seeds to spread
Yeah,
all over
that's
the place.
important what you just said though. We need to we have to go back to the farmers market. I know here in Texas, I've heard that Texas has more black farmers than anywhere else in the country. And they're at the farmers market. And I didn't understand until I used to come here every summer for vacation because I had two aunts and cousins who lived out here. And I would always see these highways and roads, FM 167, FM, 190.
Right,
And so it wasn't until I moved here nearly 6 years ago, and I'm thinking, why are all of these roads FM something?
right.
And my girlfriend told me, oh, honey, that's farm to market.
Yeah,
That literally means farm to market.
yeah,
That's how you would know in your community where you would go
right,
to buy your food.
right. And and one of the things that I'm seeing is there's a very beautiful trend of young brothers and sisters who are moving into agriculture. Not
Yeah,
even young brothers and sisters of all ages who are moving into agriculture in different ways. Some people may just solely be growing herbs. I know a sister who grows herbs solely just for her soaps. That's her business. But what we're seeing is these people are setting up markets at farmers market. And there are black farmers markets popping up all over the country. I played a part in a few of them, the establishment of new farmers market. And this biggest struggle with black farmers markets is that we have to develop a culture where we actually go to these markets and where we
Right.
wake up in the morning. Farmers markets don't stay open all day. People are out there early and they
that's
leave.
right.
But the
Right.
culture to where we go out, we buy our food from black growers, whether
That's
it's
right.
where we buy our honey, you drink alcohol, or black wine brewers, and all of these things like get your kombucha, your kefir, whatever. Black folks doing everything.
That's right.
So,
Right.
but these are small artisans, they're small crafters, they're small growers, and they want to make this something that they do for a living. But we actually have to get out and support them and
That's
look
the
for them.
right.
You know, at my farm, we're starting a farmers market in June, and we're doing it on Friday, and we're doing it from 4 to 7 afternoon, 4 to 7.
I
We're not
want
doing
to.
it early.
I want to talk more about this. We definitely have to talk more about this. Sadly, we're out of time,
Sorry.
but no,
No, we
please.
really
Like
do have to
this is
talk more
wonderful.
about this.
No,
But
we definitely have to talk more about this because I'm pretty sure that a lot of it is just the information circulating in our community so that
mhm,
we know the farmers markets are there,
Right. I mean,
you
I think
know?
yeah, I think it's the information circulating, but also, like I said, being in a few of them, I've been dealt with farmers markets where our advertising has been there. We've went all over the place, but we do not have a culture of understanding the power of these marketplaces.
right.
Mhm.
We just don't have a culture, and even from not just from the perspective of the purchaser, but even the growers. You'll see a lot of times you see black growers and farmers. They want to sell produce at the same price that they would sell it at the white farmers market. You're dealing with a group of people who've been doing this for the last 20, 30 years and have the funds to spend this much money on it. Get your farm
Right.
set up to where you could take EBT, to where you could do a double dollars program, to where you could get this food accessible to brothers and sisters who may not have those funds,
Right.
and have the farmers markets times like what we're doing from 4 to 7 to where people going to be there. But moreover, make it a festival.
Right.
Our farmers market, our first market's coming up. We have a whole live jazz jam session that's going to be taking place.
Support the artists too while you're
Right.
at it. Why
Right.
not?
Yes, it has to be holistic. You
You
know,
know we love our music.
yes, we do. We love a party. Period.
Mhm.
Right.
And if we can make, that's what I'm saying. I'm more so concerned about us having a party than a farmers market, because if the people come, and they're there consistently. Now people come and sell their wear, their whatever they do, and they know that. And we want this to be a ritual. We want this to be something that people look forward to. We want families out here. It's going to be educational. We have to make these small scale farms slash community centers.
Yeah.
To they built a whole community, not just grow food.
Wow. So, Brother Ibrafall, tell the audience where they can find you.
Sure, sure. Um, on social media, everything is the Black Urban Gardening Society. That's our website. Email address at Gmail, the Black Urban Gardening Society. Our Facebook, the Black Urban Gardening Society. I'm sorry, Black Urban Gardening Society is not the, excuse me. It's Black Urban Gardening Society on social media. We're on Facebook. We do have a Facebook group, Black Urban Gardening Society. We invite all brothers and sisters to come out and learn, to participate, to share what they're doing. We have a YouTube channel I've mentioned a few times, so where we have a few videos. Uh, we are getting pushed to try to make it more
Is that
put
right
out.
for the website?
Yes, Black Urban Gardening Society.com. Yeah,
Okay.
where we could put out more videos. It's just me, uh, but we're doing some major work. Sister Sumayyah, I have to thank you again for having me here. Sister Sumayyah introduced me to a beautiful group of brothers and sisters. We celebrated last month, a month ago, we celebrate National Black Gardener, which was a big celebration. Next year, we're moving to a celebration where we're going to do a big celebration where we're going to focus on Black food security, and we're going to try to do a whole week celebration where we honor our brothers and sisters and we deal with this. So yeah, so we're trying to move, and I think food is the um, easiest way for us to free ourselves. It's just
Absolutely.
so yeah. So
Real soul food.
yeah,
That's
real
right.
soul food. Yeah, real soul food. Yeah, and
Right.
yeah. So the Black Urban Gardening Society, Black Urban Gardening Society, and yeah, please reach out and thank you all for having me here again. And y'all just remember to grow. Like I say, the food you grow is the food you know. So when you grow your own food, you don't have to worry about where it comes from, what's in it, how any of that. You know it, and you have a personal relationship with it. I like to tell some of the plants that I grow. I say I knew your great 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 grandmama, because I just been saying forever. So yeah, so yeah, you all for having me.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
being here.
Yes.
Appreciate it so much.
Yes, definitely. And you on our speed dial, right?
Okay, yeah, keep calling, call me, please.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you all.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Thank you.